Hello, ladies. I'm coming to you today with a new part in my blog series I've been doing called Know Your Emotional Abuser. And I told you all last week I was coming with this, and I'll be doing this for the next couple of weeks and stuff. I was going to do kind of two at a time, but I decided, no, I think it's best to kind of do these one at a time. This week I might do two because there are two things that are really connected to one another that it may be good to hear about. Whoa. But I'm coming to you and I've got my shorter hair. Yes, I'm on my way to natural heaven. I've cut off some of the old perm parts and stuff at the end. I'll cut it off and let it gonna grow out a little bit more, you know, and then we'll get. But we're really close. I'm close as it is, kinda. And I did this myself, so not too bad, not too terrible, not too terrible and stuff. But so far, so good. And just coming and just trying to give you some information and stuff, and at the end, just kind of wrap all of this up. But I'm coming today talking about verbal assault, and it was kind of interesting that I came today because on my YouTube channel, someone verbally assaulted me. Now, that part doesn't really matter. They're strangers, so it doesn't really matter about them verbally assaulting me. But it does matter when you're in a love relationship with someone, when you're in a close relationship with someone. It matters about verbal assaults. But a stranger verbally assaulted me, whatever. Someone who decided that they were mad because I was suggesting that black women date non-black men or whatever and all this stuff. And they call themselves Black Pride, and then they talk really disgustingly about women and call black women, N-words and this and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, you're Black Pride. Okay, yeah, whatever. And yeah, that just makes me really miss dating black men. Black men. I'm just, I don't really know what these people are doing. I don't know what their problem is. Because if you're happy with your life, you wouldn't really be worrying about mine or what it is that I'm doing in mine or whatever. But it's obvious that these people aren't happy with their own lives. So, and they don't want you and they don't want anybody else to have you. And so it kind of pains them to see you happy, and stuff. Really, it would pain them to be happy, but it pains them to see someone moving on and being happy and whatever, and stuff. And personally, my signs of a true sociopath is someone that can't be happy and can't be happy for other people. That's incapable of having any moments of levity or joy. That's really sad. And whoever this person was, every time I hear something like that, every time somebody says, all I can ever think is, thank you that I have left that part of the black community behind. Thank you, I've left all that dysfunction and all that craziness. Thank you, I just, I don't deal with that. I don't associate with that. I don't associate with any people that associate with that, and stuff. All the black people I know got sense. And I'm pretty much just, in the comments, it was so crazy because then they started, brightening caps, like the shout and stuff. And I kept thinking, I wonder, are they at home? I wonder how they fell on the floor and start kicking and screaming like a 5-year old. Because that's the video I'm waiting for some of these folks that are so mad about black women talking about exercising options and going out, and hey, finding a mate that's suitable and right for them, no matter what color. I'm waiting for somebody to make a video where they're just laying on the floor, kicking and screaming like a 5-year old. I really am. I'm waiting for that video, okay? But anyway, whatever the ridiculousness with somebody who was, who's got way too much time on their hands. Today we're going to talk about verbal assaults and what verbal assaults are. We're also going to talk about, I think, constant criticism and continual blaming. These are two separate types of emotional abuse. And I want everybody to know, even though I'm talking about one of these or two of these at a time, most people who are emotional abusers use maybe all of them, a combination of them, different parts of them. They don't use all parts of them and stuff, so it's best to know as much information as you can possible about these types of emotional abuse, so you can recognize that maybe although someone may be gaslighting, they may not be dominating, or someone may, do constant criticism and stuff, but they may not be verbally assaulting you. So we're going to talk about that. And once again, I'm coming from my book, The Emotionally Abusive Relationship by Beverly Engel. Please, if you are a victim of emotional abuse, I would recommend this book. She's also written a bunch of other books about emotional abuse that are very good, but I'd recommend this book, for someone who's curious about what it is, what you may have gone through and you didn't really understand what happened and how you ended up there and things. Verbal assaults. Verbal assault includes berating, belittling, criticizing, humiliating, name calling, screaming, threatening, excessive blaming, shaming, using sarcasm in cutting ways, or expressing disgust toward a person. This kind of abuse is extremely damaging to a person's self-esteem and self-image. Just as assuredly as physical violence assaults the body, verbal abuse assaults the mind and spirit, causing wounds that are extremely difficult to heal. When someone yells at us, we become afraid that he or she may also resort to physical violence. And also in a book called The Verbally Abusive Relationship, which is by Patricia Evans, she includes some other forms of verbal abuse and verbal assault, which are withholding, countering, discounting, verbal abuse disguised as jokes, blocking and diverting, accusing, judging, trivializing, forgetting, ordering, denial, and abusive anger. And, the parts about verbal assault, the parts about berating and belittling and criticizing and humiliating can be very obvious, expressing disgust, screaming, and threatening. Uh, some of these included by Patricia Evans in their verbally abusive relationship, like withholding and countering, discounting, verbal abuse disguised as jokes, which people don't really get. There are a lot of people who verbally abuse people and disguise it as a joke. And I've seen this happen. I've seen people do this to other people. And, you always feel uncomfortable. Maybe you're at some event and someone husband or wife, they do something and then the husband or wife tells a joke, but it's not funny. It feels weird. It feels weird to you. You feel like someone's been insulted, but you can't really figure out how, and stuff. That's verbal abuse disguised as jokes. It's also ways people use sarcasm in cutting ways that you have to be very aware of. I'm sarcastic, and it can be very sarcastic and stuff. And so I have to be aware that I can't use my sarcasm to, make people feel bad and things like that. But I'm just naturally kind of a sarcastic person, as you could see from the first part of this blog when I talked about the crazy verbal abuser on YouTube. I'm just kind of sarcastic, and just kind of as who I am and stuff. But I don't use that as a way to insult or demean someone I love, or my husband and something. And I definitely don't like jokes disguised. I know jokes disguised, and I know other people may not be aware, but I know jokes disguised as humor. If your mate isn't laughing, if they don't think it's funny, then it's really not funny. You may have hurt their feelings. And what usually happens is when people use verbal abuse disguised as a joke, is the other person will say, you know what, that hurt my feelings. And they'll be like, why are you so sensitive? What's wrong with you? I really didn't mean it. It was just a joke. And, if I'm not laughing, no one's laughing, no one thinks it's funny but you, then that's not a joke. You are probably emotionally abusing someone when you do that. Withholding Countering discounting. Discounting and it means just discounting people's opinions, what they have to say. Every time somebody says something, you're like, "Oh, you're stupid. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, that's dumb," and stuff. I'm not listening to what you have to say. That's discounting. Withholding means withholding affection and withholding affection, withholding love, withholding approval and things like that. Withholding is so subtle, and you definitely wouldn't know withholding unless you knew what withholding was. It's so subtle. It is the most subtle. It's a subtle form of verbal assault abuse. It's just someone who won't show you love. They'll withhold affection. They won't give you approval. They won't say nice things about you. You may ask them a question about how you look. They won't compliment you. They just, and it's a way to keep you under control, and stuff. So you have to remember that, is that if you can't get a compliment, if you can't get someone to show you affection or tell you that they love you or that they care about you or they appreciate who you are probably getting emotionally abused. Forgetting. And I don't think people really always know or even get what forgetting. Forgetting means forgetting anything. You planned a dinner for tonight and they forgot and didn't show up, or they came in late. Oh, I totally forgot. You made plans for you to, a week or two ago, and you told them about it. Oh, I forgot. They forget your birthday. They forget anniversaries. They forget holidays. They forget family events. They forget all the time. And it's not a thing where they kind of forget a lot of stuff. They're just maybe forgetful. It's just things specifically targeted at you that they forget, and stuff. Forgetting birthdays and anniversaries really to me is kind of inexcusable. Birthday is like everybody's special day. I would never forget, my mate's birthday. I don't forget most people. We have a lot of people in our family, so we have a long list of everyone's birthday. Birthday is really a special time, and if someone you love continuously forgets your birthday, or continuously has stuff to do, or forgets anniversaries, it's a verbal assault. It's an assault. It's abuse. They're abusing you and abusing your affection. So you have to remember that and be aware of those. Trivializing what you do. If you do something important that they don't really think, oh, it's no big deal, or that's just, oh, well, so and so did that too, and stuff. So in a way to make you feel smaller or feel less than, and stuff. And any abusive anger, just being angry at anything that goes on. If you have good things that happen in your life and they're angry at that, or they're angry about you getting attention, or they're angry that they have to do something with you, or they're angry they have to go with you to see your family, or they're angry that they have to, take time out of their schedule or whatever to do something with you, although you're willing to do the same thing with them, it's abuse. You have to remember, one of the things about having a relationship is reciprocity, is that what you give, you're getting in return. And if you're giving and never getting, then you have to know that something is wrong, out of balance about that relationship. Now I'm going to talk about constant criticism and continual blaming. This form of emotional abuse can be included in the verbal abuse category, but I've chosen to make it a separate category because it often occurs on its own without any other form of verbal abuse accompanying it, and because it can sometimes characterize an entire relationship. When someone is unrelentingly critical of you, always finds fault, can never be pleased, and blames you for everything that goes wrong, it is insidious and nature and cumulative effects of the abuse that do the damage. Over time, this type of abuse eats away at your self-confidence, your sense of self-worth, undermining any good feelings you have about yourself or about your accomplishments. When a partner overtly criticizes or screams and yells, and it's easy to come to the conclusion that one is being emotionally abused. But when your partner puts you down under the guise of humor, and I do just want people to remember this, really, because this happens so often, and people really don't understand how abusive that is. It can be extremely difficult to come to this realization. So you have to remember, yes, screaming and hollering is one thing. It's kind of obvious. Those things are kind of obvious. When I tell you about those, you can kind of, oh yeah, well that. But humor is a little bit more difficult. And my thought always with humor is that if they're making jokes about you, and they make jokes about you in front of other people, they criticize in a way that, and make jokes that criticize you in a way in front of other people, they do stuff, maybe you're on Facebook or Twitter, and they make critical statements or make jokes about you and stuff, and they think it's funny, and you're like, that's really not funny, that's embarrassing. They may bring up embarrassing things about you and stuff like that to other people and stuff to try to embarrass you, and they think it's funny. That's emotional abuse. That's not funny. If it's not funny to you, it's not funny at all. If I'm not laughing, and I'm certainly a person that can take a joke and can laugh at myself. I certainly am. I don't take myself that seriously. But the biting humor, and I know if this is being used against you, abuse disguised as humor, you know what I'm talking about. The biting humor where you feel embarrassed or you feel bad or you feel that knot in your stomach or you feel, really upset and angry about what they say, and then they laugh it off and they think it's okay and it's no big deal that they said that. Those things are abusive. The always finding fault, the never being pleased, someone who is never okay. Whatever you do more, they're still not okay. You do more, they're still not okay. You do more, and they're still not okay. They're never happy. They're never happy. That's abusive and part of constant criticism and continual blaming. Someone who blames you for everything that goes wrong in their life. It's always your fault. They never take responsibility for themselves. That's a part of being emotionally abused. And you have to realize that. Many people don't realize when everything that goes wrong in somebody's life is in no way your fault and stuff. But if they're blaming you and people are feeling bad and feeling like, well, I love this person, if I do this, if I do that, it doesn't really matter what you do because it's always going to be your fault. They're not going to ever take responsibility for themselves and stuff. So it doesn't really matter what you do to make things better. It'll always be bad for them. They'll never be pleased. They'll never be happy. And each of those verbal assaults and constant criticism and continual blaming, each of those are going to eat away at you. They're going to eat away at your self-esteem. They're going to eat away at your self-worth. They're going to make you feel bad about yourself. Having a relationship with someone should not always have you in the state of, oh my God, I feel so bad. Or when you think about them, you think how bad they make you feel, and stuff. Or what you have to do in hopes of making them feel better so they won't make you feel bad. It should never be about that. Being in a relationship with someone should always be something where you're getting acknowledgement and appreciation, and they're feeling you with goodness, and that even though you're already a happy person, it's something about them that brings good things into your life and makes you feel good about yourself. If you feel bad about yourself every time you see somebody, if you're crying every time you leave the house, or something, or you're feeling upset or angry, then you have some issues. So I want folks who are maybe are victims of verbal abuse or have seen verbal abuse, or especially when it comes to the humor part, to please make note of the what verbal abuse, when it comes to emotional abuse and constant criticism and continual blaming look like. So you'll recognize them, especially when it comes to the humor part, because it's so easy to kind of just think, oh, he's just kind of sarcastic or whatever, and not even realize you're being emotionally abused. So the next one we'll be talking about is abusive expectations and emotional blackmail. I think you'll like both of those. Those are actually both really two interesting forms of emotional abuse. So until next time, if you're in an abusive relationship, emotional abusive relationship, please think about exiting it. If you're not, please watch out for emotional abusers. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.